I read the material and knew I had to do it. I mean, I always go to the best material. The person of interest made this person very interested, made Jim Caviezel, because I rarely come across something that within the first few pages, I mean, that's very few, so movies I've done, Count of Monte Cristo, Thin Red Line, or Frequency, that jar me, however hard they are, or whatever, I'll do whatever it takes, because it's like being a part of, I guess, what you dream about, historical or something. You know, I haven't seen a lot of the Nolan's work. I read the screenplay and thought it was brilliant. So I've always gone where the material is, what moves me, what I think is going to move people in general. And I think it's one of those pieces that you're fortunate to ever get a shot at. And that's why I came into doing something that I didn't think it was just was cinema on TV, you know. I think people who are watching this got more experience watching these things than me doing them. I just, the character I haven't seen on TV, you know, or I haven't seen, I felt like I could do something rare with it, you know, and there are a few characters I've seen, like Clint Eastwood and some of those great westerns he did, or Dirty Harry's, combination of those things that I saw, that you have a disillusioned character, that is living with a lot, but has a very redeemable substance to him. It's very hard to find a character like that. And you better not mess with him too much. But this guy's backstory of being in special ops, CIA, Blackwater kind of fella, and that is really sharp to technologies, things that have gone out, and then the introduction of Finch bringing in an indispensable amount of wealth to get whatever they need, and are not confined to the elements that most police are confined to. At the end of the day, the story asks a question, or Finch does to my character, that it probably will not end good for either one of us, but, you know, do you want to live a little bit? And it's for a guy that was probably going to die anyway, and a guy like him is saying, well, we all die in the end. Maybe you say Braveheart, not every man. Every man dies, not every man really lives. You know, he's an adventure seeker. I imagine Reese being a character who, maybe at a time in his life when he was younger, he didn't, whether his brother was getting his face beaten in or something, and he didn't take action, he didn't do anything. He was afraid that if he did something, they would harm him. And in seeing that over and over, year after year, you know, a coward dies 1,000 deaths and a hero dies only once. Probably philosophy is burnt into him, to a point where a lot of these guys, when they go into special forces, you can't hurt them. Physically, you can't hurt them. They'd soon as die before they ever quit again, because that pain was far greater than the cold, hypothermic conditions, a la Navy SEALs being thrown into water, drowning, and still continually persevering, overcoming the most beyond anything that most, 99% of the people in the world could never even cope with. It has to come from the heart. It has to come something much deeper. I think that I found a lot of myself in this character. Stuff that I don't think that have to play that have to reach that hard to. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be difficult, but a lot of the things that I've grew up with were right there, and really see things that in this piece that will be instinctual for me. Every now and then you get those. Jim Deaver is our military advisor on this. We were just getting to know each other. He's a very, very kind man. He was Force Recon, Special Forces, and is trained with SAS, SEAL teams, Delta Force, Green Beret, Rangers, and he, we have shared many experiences in where I will talk to him about films that I've done, and in preparing for this, spent quite a deal of time down in Coronado with one of my buddies there. I don't want to give his name, but he's there's several of them actually that have really helped me along the way in close quarter combat and water and dive techniques and things, and using rebreathers and things that guys that have gone through that. Also, I've done a few films where I actually opened me up to that whole world, where we're working with Ridley Scott for 6 months and just spending a great deal of time with them, and then comparing those notes with Jim was a wonderful thing for me, because it gives me an opportunity to see their world and to know that that they'll let you in for that little bit, and that's it. I'm quite respectful and quite honored to play someone that would represent them, and so I want to do it well. The heart of the show, from the writers, could be something very special, and a very special time that we're living in. Some people will call it a very dark time that we're going to go through. And in the opening of this, I always is a dark moment of the project, or the show, where he's in the cemetery, but there's a flicker of light, and there's those individuals that represent that light in that darkness. And Reese is continually challenged by Finch. What are you going to be? Are you going to bring hope? You're just going to bring misery. It's your choice. He definitely asks some powerful questions to a guy that's not really going to listen very long. Doesn't say a whole lot either, but he's getting his attention. And the New York being a major character in this story. Because there's a lot of things in this that they're there. There's a flavor. If you look hard, they're there, but that there are seen but also unseen elements to it that are quite fascinating. And when you ask your general public just how they feel about the world right now, I would think a lot of them would be challenged to say things are going to be up and up, but there are those out there that are going to help bring a light. And come hell or high water, I see Reese as that guy, and Finch, right to the end. Life's worth living, you know. Well, then what we're dealing with, no other generation's dealt with, is just the amount of surveillance. I mean, this the technology now. It's ahead of the laws, you know, ahead of things. Nobody conceived what this would be. I mean, it's, you know, makes George Orwell. It's George Orwell on steroids, 1984. I mean, they've got surveillance everywhere now. And I think the general consensus of much of the public is, don't ask, don't tell, I don't want to know. As long as you protect me, but then there are also things you give up. And, you know, what things do you watch on the internet, in your privacy or your home? Who's watching that, and who really knows what you have, and what's going to happen one day when things that you don't want out there are going to be out there. Who's going to be the fall guy for that? Who's going to be the guinea pig for that? Nobody wants to ask that question right now. But at the same time, you're dealing with a small group of people that at any time could cause so much damage. I mean, all you have to ask yourself is, does the World Trade Center exist anymore? And what happened to those people? So this show is going to survive on whether it's going to be provocative or it wants to be like some other show. And I don't see anything like that hanging out. If the creators go with what is on the heartstrings of human beings right now, it's, you know, do we still feel? Absolutely. Do we still hate? Yes, sadly. But do we love? Of course. This can be more personal than I think it was like when you start talking to people and individuals that around here that at least I have, about things that I can pick up from my character. You don't even have to ask, go too far and ask someone, were you here during 9/11? And the continual thing that comes up was the brevity of life, the power of prayer, and the reality of evil. Those three things. And I said, that somewhere in there Reese fits in. No, I wasn't. I wasn't, but I am an American, and I spent a great deal of time with a good friend of mine who raised me growing up, and he lost his brother who refused to leave, who was a Marine. He was in the lobby, and he was the head of the security. Patrick Fitzsimons was former chief of police in Seattle, and he lost his brother, who was trying to make sure that he wouldn't leave anyone else, and that was ingrained in him. And so that is my duty, is to make sure that is brought in this character, that is there, and that sense of patriotism. But at the same time, he feels betrayed. And many of these guys that have sworn everything to God and country have been dumped off to the side, which goes with the beginning of this thing and what he gave up. And so a lot of ideals that he had have been lost. Can he get them back? We'll see.